Well, it's time for Media Watch now. Emma James is with us in the studio. Good to see you, Emma. Now we're going to start with the chaotic situation in Bolivia. The President Evo Morales, of course, resigned yesterday, and there is a huge power vacuum in place now. Just talk us through some of the reactions online.
Yes, it's interesting to see that there is a real coordinated effort to create fake news and also to tip the balance, really, in terms of what people are saying online. Lots of people noticing tweets like this one. Hi, I'm Bolivian. I'm also a political science student, and this is a flat-out lie. That in reaction to another tweet about Bolivia. But as this Twitter user points out, growing numbers of these likely fake pro-coup accounts are appearing in my mentions. This one can't even get its lies straight. Bolivian in the tweet and then American in the bio. This one made me laugh too. I'm really enjoying the insightful analysis about the situation in Bolivia from Hector and a string of numbers, whose account was created 5 minutes ago. It is, however, difficult to get any truly confirmed information out of Bolivia right now. This was a tweet from Evo Morales in which he talked about the fact that he had an illegal arrest warrant out against him, something that's been denied by the police. Other people have confirmed it, other people have denied it. So it is very hard to know exactly what the situation is right now. And it's worth bearing in mind a lot of people with a lot of agendas tweeting about this right now.
Everybody seems to have an opinion about this today.
Very much so. There have been lots of celebrations and a lot of unrest since Evo Morales stood down. This video purports to be his home, which clearly had been ransacked, broken into, dozens of people inside it, lots of graffiti, lots of detritus too. On Twitter as a whole, there do seem to be two camps emerging, those who call it a coup, who are supporting Evo Morales, and those using hashtags like Evo You're Not Welcome and Morales Defeated. But where did it all go wrong? Because it's important to remember that he did oversee a period of great economic growth. He cut poverty levels almost in half, from 60 to 36%. So that's millions of people no longer living in poverty thanks to the changes that he made in the country. But Yasha Munk, talking in The Atlantic, says basically, finally, he went too far. He accuses Morales of attacking Bolivia's democracy for many years. And obviously with this particular movement to try to overstay the constitutional limits, he lost a referendum, the people's vote on it. It was a very tight-run thing. Then he convinced the Constitutional Court to allow him to run again. And that is what has kicked off all these protests. Yasha Munk says that he may have ruled as a man of the people, but he lost their support because people resent arbitrary rule. He's also very critical in this piece, too, of left-wing Western politicians who are seduced by the idea of the pink tide, where we saw a number of left-wingers brought to power across Latin America around 20 years ago. And it's interesting to see the reactions from left-wingers today. Jean-Luc Mélenchon here in France, who leads La France Insoumise, or Unsubmissive France, a very left-wing party. He has denounced this as a military putsch and says friends of the US and the EU have restored their democracy. Also support coming in from Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the opposition in the United Kingdom, the Labour Party. He's tweeted that along with a powerful movement, he brought so much social progress and has been forced from office by the military, which is appalling, and he condemns the coup. But there's an interesting article in The Independent which talks about how the left-wing politicians basically fetishize socialism. And it all started back in the 1970s, where you had Che Guevara. And what she says here is that the hard left often seems satisfied with conditions in Cuba, Venezuela and Bolivia that they would abhor in their own countries.
Very interesting. And it really has divided the world, that one, as you say. All right, let's move on to something a bit closer to home. There was an earthquake in parts of France earlier today, and unsurprisingly, a lot of people are a little shaken up.
Yes, very much so, because it isn't tremendously common here. People certainly taken by surprise in the southeast of France, and it was a fairly strong one. This woman saying it's the first time she's ever felt an earthquake in her life, and a little gif of SpongeBob SquarePants there. This person saying they've just experienced an earthquake, and yes, it surprised them. Lots of gifs out there on this one. The accounts of it are quite alarming too. One person saying it felt like an electric shock in my legs, feet and calves. The earth and the walls started to move, and we have seen, well, as you see here, 5.4 on the Richter scale in the southeast of France, and that is the only time it's been higher was in 1909, so it's more than a century since we've had an earthquake of this ilk. 6.2 back then. Lots of buildings have suffered some fairly fairly minor damage, and we do have one person who's been seriously injured by some falling scaffolding. This building showing a very large crack that's appeared as a result of it. That in the town that's very much at the epicentre. But most worrying is that this epicentre is less than 30 kilometres from two nuclear plants, one of them among the biggest in the country. Now, they were shut down to have checks carried out. EDF says that neither would have been damaged by this earthquake, and assures us that they are functioning normally. But I love this cartoon. I think it's a recycled one, and it's got the people from Areva wearing lots of protective gear, and it says, "Do we look like people who are worried about radioactivity?"
Excellent. I mean, earthquakes are not the number one thing French people worry about. It has to be said.
No, absolutely not.
But maybe things are going to change. All right, Emma, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, as always. Emma James there.